Hello, I'm Colleen Mahr, the mayor in the borough of Fanwood, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Dr. Joan Mast, the superintendent of the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education. And we have a conversation today that's going to discuss the upcoming referendum that is going to ask our community to invest in the future of our public education. On this September 17th, 2024, the voters will go to the polls in a special election, a referendum, to answer two questions. So I thought it would be really great if we had an opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with the superintendent and talk about some of the questions that I have been hearing, and also really what the superintendent and the district wants us to know before we go to the polls. So, hi, Dr. Mast.
Good morning, Colleen.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so it's nice because we were talking right before we came on camera that we both really have been, serving this community for close to 20 years. I became the mayor in 2004, and you came into the district?
In 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
So we kind of understand the history of what's been going on here in our school system and kind of what has taken us to this moment of going out for a referendum. So tell me a little bit about what you have seen has gotten us to this point.
Sure. So what we know is this town, or both towns, Scotch Plains and Fanwood, really value the education. What makes it a very special place is that the parents, the community, and the schools all work together because we care that deeply about our children. And part of our signature at the elementary level has been to have reasonable class sizes. And reasonable does have a range, it does have a neighborhood of numbers, but if you think of 20 or 21 as being the central point of an elementary classroom, with the primary grades being less than that, and the third through fifth maybe being at 21 or 22.
Sure.
That is what the community has been accustomed to and has valued. So in recent times, right now our schools have gone beyond what they were built to hold. So we're over 1,000 students in enrollment, and we're feeling that squeeze in our classrooms.
And that 1,000 over enrollment has been sort of happening over time.
That's right. It has been happening gradually. I think because of things that are unexpected, such as the pandemic and just the changing dynamics of neighborhoods.
Right.
That 1,000 increase has been more in recent years.
Right.
So we're feeling it where we're losing spaces in our elementary schools for things like music or some of the special programs that we give to our students, art and world language, and our class sizes themselves have been, inching up.
So talk to me about prior to going out for a referendum, because I don't think there's been a referendum since 2001.
That's correct.
That we've asked the voters to invest in capital for the district. What have you been doing? What has the district been doing up until this point, where now this is really the place that you need to go for the future of the district? What has been happening sort of over the last, say, 10 years?
So I think the Board of Education with the central office administration, the way that they would approach the needs is to really be frugal with the budget, and with carryover money that they would address annual needs.
Right.
So for example, we've been putting air conditioning in all of our buildings, but it's been very slow, and it's been very dependent on the carryover money that you could save. So though it's been a long-standing goal to have universal air conditioning, we are not close to being there.
And prior to the referendum that's coming up in September, how have the district has addressed sort of the space needs?
So according to the space needs, we have done things by building or bringing on campus temporary classrooms. So at both Park and Terrell, you will see what we affectionately call the villas and the cottages. Other municipalities do call them trailers, right, because they're just meant to be there for a short period of time. Yeah. We were able to extend classroom space in that way. Additionally, we're using places like cafeterias for instructional spaces for our music programs.
And I think one of the pieces of information that I think has come really out is moving the fifth graders back into the elementary schools. And that could be something that happens if the referendum passes.
That's exactly right. So if the referendum passes, we're able to shut down those temporary classrooms and bring our fifth grade back to the elementary.
So that in our elementaries could be pre-K
That's right.
up to 5,
Exactly.
and then 6, 7, and 8 would be our middle schools, our junior highs. I'm not sure what we call it because I remember them as.
Yes, it would be the middle schools would be 6 through 8.
Right.
And then the high school would be steady at 9 to 12.
Right. So my takeaway in sort of watching the presentations that you've done and building out the website and listening to the community, there's a story here, right? This is something that has been going on for a while in the sense of the pressures that the district has faced. And I think you understand the significance of what we're asking our voters, our residents, our property taxpayers to do come September. So let's talk a little bit about the referendum, because there's not one question, there's actually 2 questions.
That's right.
So why don't we delve into the first question, and that I think also will lead us into why now, right? Why now is there a referendum happening at this moment in September because of the first question? So why don't we talk a little bit about it, and there's a picture of it right behind me here.
So the September question is unique because a building became available that
In Fanwood.
in Fanwood. That's right. And without that happening, the district was exploring ways that we could address the need for more space. So the things that were considered is our architects came and did a whole overview of all of the buildings in the district, and they were looking for any space that could be repurposed for instructional reasons. All of our elementary schools already have received 2 additions. So to put a 3rd addition on would really put pressure on things like parking, cafeteria space, gym space, because adding more class.
I don't think I understood that. So all of the 4?
All of the 5
elementary schools have each received
2
2
additions over time, before our time.
Right.
And so
they're maxed out.
So they're maxed out. To add more classrooms or even to put in temporary spaces, it still puts a lot of pressure on the buildings. So, a serendipity happened. A building came for sale, which was once a district-owned school.
Yes.
And we really threw our hat in the ring to investigate, to explore, to see if that was a viable and prudent option.
And I think that's somewhat of an important piece of information, because it really goes to the why now.
That's right.
And why a school? Like, why can't you do and then fill in the blank something else versus this? And I think we've kind of touched upon that. So yes, the LeGrand School, which is behind me here, life is like a circle, right? We've come full circle, because if the referendum does pass, this actually was a school owned by the Board of Education. And currently in Fanwood, we do not have any public schools in our town. They just happen to all reside in Scotch Plains, and this would actually, if it passes, would bring back a school into the town's limits.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about, why this building and what you envision if it passes.
Okay. So if this building passes, it will be an additional elementary school. It will be from pre-K through grade 5, and it will be a neighborhood school. And we will actually be focusing on all of our schools to ensure that people are within a radius of the school, maximizing the walking opportunities, and just to have their school as close as possible to their homes.
And I think that for someone like myself that has 3 boys that have, one is still in the district, but have come up through the district, and understanding the budget pressures of the district, transportation has been one of the bigger pressure points of providing the transportation, which you're mandated to do, especially after COVID, right, with lack of bus drivers and routes. And so this, if it passes, would allow the district to kind of take a step back over the next year or two, because building won't happen overnight.
That's right.
And kind of realign or look at the district when it comes to transportation.
That's right. We would do a whole assessment to continue to minimize the number of buses that we need. And this, getting the LeGrand School, would help us achieve that goal.
So here, you're going to take the footprint of the existing school, and I believe, which is wrapped up in that first question, and with the dollar amount that is being asked to raise, which I think is, how much is that first question?
The total of the two questions is 115. The first question,
81?
It could be 81.
Yeah.
I would have to check specifically.
Right.
But for all of those very close details, I encourage everyone to go to the website.
Right.
If you go to the district website at SPF K-12, right on the top there's a banner, and it has all of the specific questions.
So, Dr. Mast, let's talk a little bit about what this school, if it passes, what will it be housed here, what kind of new elements beyond the footprint of the existing building, and then what that will allow throughout the district if the referendum passes.
Okay, that's an exciting question. So what we'll be doing is we will be renovating the footprint so we have state-of-the-art classrooms. We'll be adding to the building so we have additional state-of-the-art classrooms. And we will also be putting in a standard-sized gymnasium for
Nice.
both the use of the school and the community, because we always need more space for those type of athletic events.
So talk about what it means if this question number one, which is for the purchase of the school and the renovation of the school, passes, what this does throughout the district to the other elementary schools.
So we'll be adding a 6th elementary school to our existing 5 elementary schools, which will give relief to all of those schools regarding space. And that really is the main driver of what we're trying to address.
Because right now, with space sort of being at a premium, I am sure there are things happening, types of instruction, or whether it's the arts, that really you'd like to see delivered in another way.
That's right. There is no better learning environment than, a standard classroom for both the teacher and the kids. I think both groups, the teachers and the students, work best when they're given the best working conditions.
Right. And if the question passes, what's just the projected timeline? Because nothing happens overnight, especially with the type of renovations here. Like in your head, when does a school like this actually come online?
So this school is projected to come online in 2027, 28.
Okay.
And that gives us a lot of time to do all of the detailed plannings for those neighborhoods, developing the neighborhoods based on the density of the population.
And also address some of the questions, I think, that some of the neighbors have had with sort of bringing back in a school, right, and activating the school and the traffic and, the times of how they're going to come in off LeGrand and come in off of South Avenue. And I feel like there's an opportunity to still work through some of that if the question passes.
That's right. We certainly would need to bring in community partners to develop the details of those plans.
Right. So then let's talk about, so that's the first question.
Yes.
Right? And that is basically asking for the acquisition of the school and investing into the renovations of the school, and you're going to get a certain percent of that total back from the state.
That's correct.
That's good.
Yes, yes. We like when the state gives us some of our already paid tax money back.
Right.
Yep.
So now let's talk about the second question.
Okay.
So the second question primarily focuses on the heating, and ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC, I think is how they refer to it as.
That's correct. Yes, so we really want to get to the place of universal air conditioning. It makes those learning spaces and teaching spaces the best.
Right.
And it also gives you the security of not having teaching and learning disrupted. But in addition to that, we have old wiring and we have a lot more technology. So we really want to upgrade our whole electrical system in all of our schools, and some of our schools are in need of safety features of new fire alarms.
And so for the second question, that is basically work that's going to be done throughout the district.
That's right.
Right, so if I'm somebody thinking about supporting the referendum, wherever their children goes, or if they're small children, they're not in the district yet, there's something for everybody.
That will impact all of our schools.
That's great, because again, as a mother who has sent their children to school on hot days and instruction has been impacted because it's so incredibly hot in the facility, it's, we know that's not the right, thing that we want for our kids.
No, not at all. And that work for the second question would be able to start almost immediately.
Okay, that's really great. So we would see and actually feel the improvements really much quicker.
That's right.
What that does. So we'll go to the polls on September 17th, and
That's
we'll
right.
see what? We'll see two questions, and the first question will be?
The first question will be the community supporting the purchase and renovation of the LeGrand School.
And you will either vote yes or no.
That's right.
And if you vote yes, what would happen then to the second question?
So if you vote yes for the first question, you then have the option of voting yes or no for the second question.
Which is the HVAC and
That's
the mechanical
correct.
stuff. And if you go in and you decide that you don't want to support the referendum, what happens then to the ability to see the second question?
If you don't support the school, you cannot vote yes for the second question.
Right. And there's a reasoning behind that, I think?
There is. So, we talked about the questions quite a bit.
Sure.
And all of the needs that are being asked for of the community really came from the strategic plan and some focus group and surveying
Right.
that the district did. So all of the things we're asking for are important. And at first we were thinking we could just put them all in one question.
Right.
But then we did want to give the community an option.
Right.
So we broke it down into the two questions, but we also wanted to prioritize our biggest need,
Right.
and that's more space.
Right.
So we had to make question number one
Right. The question.
the question.
Right.
That's right.
And I think that's important to kind of just reiterate again, that it's really the strategic plan,
That's right.
which is really all the stakeholders, which is all the various groups that support the children, support public education, that talk over a course of time to come up with a strategic plan for the district, which are your goals.
That's right.
Right? Which is your mission and your goals. And out of the strategic plan was really what you heard is what we're going to the polls for.
That's exactly right.
Okay, well then that makes sense. So I think that we've kind of covered a lot of the information. Just, for me as the mayor, I think it's really important that people feel like they're educated when they go into the polls, and when they ask something of them. So we know that there will be two questions. We know that there's $115 million of improvements being into the district, and the state is going to cover, I think, close to $15 million.
That's right.
Of that. So that's the state aid that you applied for once the district sort of understood the cost of the referendum.
That's right.
And then, so for $15 million comes back kind of off the top, and then that's what we're then asking for the public to support.
Correct.
So I think we've talked about the price of the improvements. So why don't we talk a little bit about the timing of this in September?
So a September vote is certainly one of the dates that's allowable by the Department of Education. However, we also have a big election coming up in November.
Yes.
So some people are asking, why not November? And the answer is because the building is for sale.
Right.
And the owner, the seller, has been gracious to wait for us.
Correct.
But he, I believe, has other people who are interested in that property.
Yes.
So he really needed us to move along as quickly as we could, and
Yes.
September was the latest date we could wait.
And I can underscore that, as being the mayor and the property is in our town, it is privately owned. It's a privately owned piece of property that came onto the market, and the owner, you are correct, was really gracious enough to work with the district.
That's right.
Because we know that real estate is very hot, whether it's in Fanwood and Scotch Plains, it's sort of everywhere. And development aspects of property, there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of pressure that goes on right now, and people can just drive through one community to another to actually see what's going to happen. And a lot of the upcoming development, they do highest and best use. So that is why I think the timing is important, because the owners really have to understand if the community is going to support this, and if it doesn't get supported, the property will go back up for sale. And I am sure that it will be taken by some developer, that will come back to us to do something probably other than a school there.
I'm voting for the school.
So is there anything else as we wrap up that you would like the community to know, as we wind down? It's right now, it's the middle of August.
That's right.
The referendum is less than a month away. This is an opportunity, I think, to really just talk directly to our constituents.
So I think it's really important that everyone knows that there is rich, detailed information on the district website. In that information, there's also the tax impact. So
Right.
we know that the average tax impact in Fanwood, if both questions pass, is $40 a month.
Correct.
And that being an average, some will pay less and some will pay more, but
Correct.
you could actually compute your exact impact, and there's a detailed formula on how to do that.
On the website.
On the website.
Yeah, on the website. And so for the community that's watching this, you can go to the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education website. They have an actual standalone
That's right.
section there, and that you can follow the link and put in your address, and it will compute for you what the tax implication would be for your property.
That's right.
Because the way to communicate right now is we do it by averages. And I know that there's a lot of those in the community that are just really wondering what it actually means.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So thanks again for coming in. This was, I think, really valuable for the community, the greater community of Scotch Plains and Fanwood, to get really accurate information. But I think before we end, we should end on understanding really upcoming important dates. So there's a couple open houses that for those who still have questions and want to kind of in person. So why don't we talk a little bit about opportunities for the voters?
Okay, good idea. So the first one is August 20th, and that one is in Fanwood. And I believe you're hosting it.
At Forest Road Park.
Very good. And it is at 7 p.m.
That's great.
And the second one is on August 22nd in person, and that one will be in the High School Media Center.
And that's where you're going to have all your professionals there, right?
In both of these open houses, there are going to be stations with all of our professionals, the traffic engineer,
Architect.
the finance expert, the architect, building administration.
That's great. And I think that's really awesome, because I think as it gets closer, people are now really paying attention. And there's nothing that substitutes sort of in-person, direct conversations, one-on-one.
I agree.
Right, so as we have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the referendums and the projects, there's also very important dates that you should keep in mind to be able to vote. August 27th is actually the voter registration's the last day. So if you're not registered to vote, August 27th is the last day. September 10th is a vote by mail applications are due. So if you're not going to be home, or if you have a former student of the district that has now in college and you would like for them to weigh in on this referendum, you can actually get a vote by mail, and you can do that up until September 10th. And September 17th is actually the referendum. The polls open at 2 o'clock. They will close at 8 o'clock. They don't open up in the morning as we are used to. They open up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So by September 17th, your vote by mail must be postmarked on the 17th, and then you could go vote in person also on September 17th from 2 o'clock in all of your normal polling locations. So wherever you vote normally is where you will also go on September 17th. So once again, I really want to thank you, Dr. Mast, for coming this morning and sitting down and really talking a little bit about the importance of the referendum in the future of our district.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. And as always, never feel free that you can't reach out directly to me with any questions that you may have. Thank you.